Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are in this. This is actually a pretty special car if you are a DTM enthusiast. This is a Mercedes Benz 190e 2.3 16 valve. Now that is a mouthful, but it is a pretty important mouthful because this sets it completely apart from the regular Mercedes Benz 190e. This is the DTM counterpart of the 190. This is the car that pretty much got Mercedes out of retirement and back into racing, and it is probably one of the main causes as to why the E30 M3 even exists today. This is arguably one of the most important cars in Mercedes history. Mercedes-Benz had a period in time where they weren't racing and they weren't really involved with motorsports so much until this car. This specific example is pretty special because this specific example is a European spec car, which means no catalytics, no nannies. In the US, they did get these cars, but none of them came with the dogleg 5-speed that I have right here with me. And something that is very important about this dogleg 5-speed is that it is the exact dogleg 5-speed that goes in the European spec E30 M3. This is the catalyst for one of the most important rivalries in motorsports history, which is BMW versus Mercedes in DTM. And this particular car is so important because of everything that it did. The reason why this car is so important is because of the amount of records that it set. This car, when it was being developed, it set an international speed record because over a distance of 50,000 kilometers, this car was able to set an average speed of 150 miles an hour. Now, that's nowhere near as fast as what modern sports cars of today can go. However, you have to keep in mind, this car went 50,000 kilometers doing that with nothing else but tire changes, brake pad changes, oil flushes, and gas. It was a very strictly regulated test that was organized by the FIA for Mercedes when they were developing the car, and that to me is something that's astonishing because there's not a whole lot of cars that can do that, and especially cars with 80s technology like this one. Another very important part about this car's history is just how important it is to the Nürburgring. Now, when the Nürburgring pitched its new setup and its new layout in '84, they needed a car to do a debut race with, and this is the car that they used. They chose a field of around 20 to 25 190Es that were all driven by the best drivers all around the world to compete against each other in a friendly exposition, and it helped promote the track's reopening. Now, what is important about that, as if that isn't important on its own, it also helps set the tone for rivalries that we know today as some of the greatest racing rivalries of all time. This is the first race where Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna met. This is the race that made Senna come out to the public eye and really show people what he can do. And it was a field that also was composed of tons of other absolutely legendary drivers. Throughout this car's production, it was a catalyst for so many things that are important in motorsport history that makes me realize that this is arguably one of the greatest cars ever made. Combined with the fact that the car is riding on 15-inch wheels and high-profile tires, this car is insanely well balanced. I mean, just when you look at it physically, you don't think that it would be able to do the things that it does, and then you throw it into a corner and it is unbelievable. Another great thing about this car is the Cosworth developed engine. This car is so incredibly smooth in the power band that it is astonishing to think that this is from the 80s. This car feels healthier at 6,000 RPM than most cars that I've ever driven at 4,000. It's unreal how smooth this thing is, and it makes you realize this is exactly how this car set these records. This is exactly why this car became so well known and why it was such a car of choice for drivers when they decided to go with what team they would want to go with in DTM. It's so smooth. I mean, just listen to that engine. Unreal how smooth this thing is. And it's not fast. It's not really that quick, but it's just the exhilarating experience of all of it coming together, and with a dogleg transmission, and with the fact that I get this awesome body roll, but it still tells me what I'm doing. I mean, the car is a blast to drive. And honestly, I mean, I've had two E30s, and with the way the prices are now for a 325 IS or a 318 IS, I think that this is much better value. Think about it. What other dogleg transmission 80s DTM car can you find for under 30 grand. None. Any sort of dogleg E30 M3 is going to cost you $80,000 to $100,000. Any non-dogleg E30 M3 will cost you $60,000 to $80,000. And when you think of it, the blueprints are pretty much the same. This has 2 extra doors given, but it still has a 2.3 liter 16 valve with ITBs that is pretty much the same power delivery and the same power band that is in the E30 M3s. So what is so special about this exact car that I'm in today? Well, this car came from Japan, which means that it's a Euro spec car, which is why it has the dogleg transmission. It has a Becker sound system in it with the auxiliary program to it, so it does have the modern capability of playing your music from your phone or from your iPod, if people still even use iPods. And it's mostly original. I mean, a lot of the examples that you find nowadays have either been repainted, they've had their interiors redone. This is completely original on the inside, and it is mostly original on the outside too, with the exception of a couple of touch-ups here and there. But that's hard to find for people who really want something as close to original as possible. Some people value restorations. I do. But unless it's done to a very high degree and a very high level, there's always going to be something missing. And at that point, you might as well just have an all-original example. The sounds, the smells, the sights that you see around you, like this, you can't beat it for the money. I mean, just listen to this thing, dude. It's 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. And it doesn't feel like it's tired at all. The power band doesn't feel like it falls off at any point. It's unbelievable how smooth this thing is. People say, oh, smooth as a sewing machine. This is as smooth as a sewing machine, and it revs, and it's fast. You know, for 80s technology, this car is quick. Now I can see how this car did 50,000 kilometers at 150 miles an hour, because it's just that good. It's just that well engineered. And you look at all the details of the car, you know, the design aspects, all the cues, everything just yells 80s Mercedes and DTM days. The little wing on the back, the mini flares on the side skirts and stuff like that. It makes this car a really enjoyable experience. And that's why I think this is one of the greatest cars that Benz has ever made and ever will make. They clearly don't make cars as fun as this anymore. So in conclusion, do I love the car? Absolutely. Would I rather it over an E30? With today's prices, the way they're going, yeah. I really would, because this car still hasn't spiked up to the value where I can see it at in the next 5 years. If you find one of these cars in good condition, don't think about it, just get it. It's going to put a smile on your face every time you drive it. It's going to make you feel like a DTM king, and it's going to remind you just how good cars of the 80s were. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the new format and this new layout. Let us know in the comments what you guys think, and we have tons of other videos coming soon, so as always, drive safe, stay safe, and we will see you next time. Cheers.